radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Good evening. How is everybody doing? Fade to Black. Today is Tuesday, not Monday, even though we're starting off a new week. Today's Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. Let's do this, man. Yeah. Help support the show. Help support all of our hard work. We do the news in the afternoon. We do that live. We do the show 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, except for this week. And the easiest way, the bestest way to help support us and our team here, the staff, is to get a Fade to Black T-shirt. There are two ways to do it. You can order a shirt straight off of our website. Free shipping, by the way, ships the next day. Or you can get a Game Changer membership, and the links for both are below. All the shirts are autographed. Like I said, they ship the very next day. Thank you so much for everybody that ordered your shirts. And when you get the shirts, take a picture. Send it to us. We'll put it in our Fade or Not, Fade to Black gallery right there on the website. And you can join all the other Fade or Nots that are there. All right. Yes, I just got back from Miami, and I was out there for the 2023 Forbidden Conscious Awards in Miami at the Arnst Center. At Arsht Center there in Miami. Incredible venue. It was a great time, packed, so many great people and great faces, and it was just an amazing evening. Went off without a hitch, something that big, and you can go and check out the live stream. Go over to forbiddenknowledge.tv, forbiddenknowledge.com, and check out the live stream replay. It is right there. It's just incredible what Billy and Elizabeth and the team pulled off. It's really cool. So go and check it out. I was just talking or chatting in the chat. And yesterday, after running on fumes, because Billy's schedule, that's it, man. You run with Billy, you run on Billy's time, which is, yeah, we have fun. We do. But you're not allowed to sleep. Sleep, man. Oh man. So that's it. You just run on that schedule and up early, work all day, have a great time doing it, get a little bit of shut eye, turn around and do it all again. And I did that for 4 days, 3 hours of sleep a night. And this was this event meant so much to us because we knew how the community would view it, and awards for people that give back to humanity and the community and are doing great things out there in the world. And so anyway, after all of that, we finish the show. I get back to my hotel. It's late, obviously. I turn around, I get up in the morning. Billy texted me at 1 a.m. and goes, "Okay, man, I'm picking you up at 7 a.m. We're going to breakfast." I was like, "Yeah, right." And I said, "Okay, man, call me." 7 a.m. I got up at 7:15 a.m. Billy's like, "I'm on my way." I was like, "Okay, he's going to be late." So I go out in front of him. He pulls up. I couldn't believe he was driving. And that was it, man. That's exactly how he rolls. We went to breakfast. That was yesterday morning. I turned right around after that, jumped in a car, went to the airport, flew back to Los Angeles, got here last night at about 7 p.m., got home at around 8, came in the house, put my suitcase down, went upstairs, threw some water on my face, stripped down, put on some Adidas shorts, and it was wearing my flip-flops, walked in, looked at my bed, and went, "I'm just going to watch something on TV real quick." Yeah, that's the plan. I face planted it. I passed out. I woke up this morning at 8 a.m. I did 12 hours in the same position, just out. And I woke up, I was like, man, whoo, I feel great. And so here we go. Let's kick off this week with Mike Ricksecker. He is here tonight. We are going to be discussing stacked time theory. And also tonight, we are going to be talking about stacked time theory. But today, his new book, Travels Through Time Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel and Stacked Time Theory, releases today. All right, so we will get the links up in the chat for everybody. Head over to Amazon, get it. The book is released today. It's always an honor and a privilege to have Mike on the show, and especially a special day when the book goes into full worldwide release. He is the author of Amazon's bestsellers, A Walk in the Shadows, A Complete Guide to Shadow People, and Alaska's Mysterious Triangle, as well as several historic paranormal books. He has appeared on multiple television shows and programs, including History Channel's Ancient Aliens and The Unexplained, Travel Channel's The Alaska Triangle, and multiple series on Gaia TV. And it is so great to have him back. Here he is, the one and only Mike Ricksecker in the house. Mike.
Jimmy Church, how you doing, my friend?
And how are you? It's been probably a year or more since you've been on the show with us. We
probably close to that,
yeah. Yeah, we can't do that again. It's my bad.
Yeah, we get busy,
Well, we do. You are the busiest man in show business. Before we get started tonight, we're talking about time tonight from every angle. My favorite subject. You're one of my favorite people. But can I go on the record a little bit? I'm going to throw you under the bus just a little. It's not that big of a deal. You can take it, right? You can take it.
Go ahead.
One of my favorite shows. Now they're all my favorites, like my children, right? Okay, they're all my favorite. Okay, I'm not belittling anybody, but one of my favorite shows, if you remember, and this goes back a few years, maybe 4 years, is the show that you and I did. You were my guest. And we went back and analyzed all of your footage, your paranormal footage. And we did the frame by frame analysis of that. And I had been watching it for a couple of weeks, scaring myself to death. But that show was one of the coolest. And I go back and think about that show all the time. It was a very special show. And tonight, we're not going to discuss any of that. we're moving on.
Yeah, we are. Well, but it's all connected. It's all related. So we might skirt the edge there a little bit with that.
Well, have you found that's a great place to start, actually, because when we discuss physics or the universe or time travel, Einstein, wormholes, physics, and what science is trying to get through to us today, and then what this community has talked about in the past. And certainly ghosts and spirits and entities come into that, and portals and time travel and these experience vortexes. They're all kind of this. In the end, is it going to be just that? We're all just talking about the same thing. Everything is connected.
Yeah. Like you just said, everything's connected. Yeah, it's all related some way, shape, or form, because when it comes down to it, we're talking about energy here. And I think one of the more fascinating pictures that's been taken of our universe was a Chandra X-ray telescope image from some years back now. And, it looks pink and purplish in nature. It's kind of almost hard to tell what you're looking at, except you see it looks like this web. Right. You have these yellow dots and there's strands of yellow and orange fibers. And you're like, what is this? And actually, it is a photo of the universe. And those yellow dots are galaxies. And those yellows and orange fibers are actually gas filaments that are connecting all the galaxies together. So, on a physical level, we are all connected to everything in the universe. And that's before we even get into the metaphysics and the supernatural and all that.
The discussion that has been going on for about 60 years, 70 years. Well, we're in 2023. So, but if we push it back, it showed up, it ended up to be translated or interpreted out of Einstein's papers, right? But the Einstein-Rosen bridge, right, and which later was renamed, a wormhole.
Right.
And time loops and these ideas. And then the discussion started to surface about constructing, manufacturing a wormhole and what that would take and how to keep it from collapsing and all of these, are we going to walk through it? Is it just for atomic particles to go through? Is it something else? Or, can we get a spaceship through this? So that discussion came up. And then another parallel discussion happened at the same time. Do these occur naturally, right, throughout space? Could this be a natural construct? And then these images start coming back, right, from Hubble, from James Webb, and looking into full spectrum as well as different slices of light spectrums. And we see that the internet, the universe and galaxies are indeed connected. And it's really crazy. And could this be, Einstein, could it be what Einstein was talking about? Could this be those wormholes or something very similar that we just haven't thought of yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Just outside of Earth, NASA has detected portals. They call them X points. And basically it's where the solar wind interacts with the Earth's magnetic shield. And it's really chaotic out there. They randomly open and close. They open at different sizes, sometimes small, sometimes larger. They've sent satellites out there to measure it and try to see if there's some sort of pattern. They really haven't found a pattern yet. And basically what these portals do is they allow that solar wind to come in even faster to the Earth, and then it slams off the Earth, and we get those nice auroras and everything like that. But yeah, we're discovering all kinds of interesting things out there in the cosmos. The James Webb Telescope has been amazing. They're taking these photos of deep space and discovering, oh wow, there's even more galaxies out there than we previously realized. So there are further reaches out into space than we can really even conceive with our minds. So we're discovering more and more every single day, and that's a wonderful thing, because that means we're getting a lot more data to try to figure out some of these more esoteric mysteries of the universe.
Okay, whose computer just made that sound?
I don't believe it was mine. I heard it.
I heard it too, and I'm going to officially say that. Hold on, that better not. Oh, wait. Oh, crap.
Your battery low?
No. I think that was mine. Okay, let me get to. I've got to turn off. I've got to turn off something here. Let me see if I can get that up. Yeah, that cannot happen. Let me see here. Hold on, computer sound. I had my computer shut off while I was gone, and so you come back and things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Or switch back on. Okay. No sounds. Yeah, see, Windows sounds are back on. Man, I just hate that. Okay. So hopefully that's not going to happen again.
I feel the pain. I abuse my computer a ton with everything that I do. And sometimes I'll just randomly blue screen out of nowhere. So fingers crossed that does not happen.
Right. That'll be next. That's your NSA buddies messing with us.
Yeah, it could very well be.
This is actually where I want to go with this. If we're going to be discussing time, okay, now before I get to what is time, and I ask nearly every guest that, and try to get their answers for this. So don't worry about it. You're going to get that question next. But Einstein, and again, this is extrapolated out of his work. But Einstein, you get to the speed of light, time stands still. Okay. Now, I don't understand, or you enter a black hole, right? You cross the event horizon. Time starts to get funky. You get a little bit, a little bit. Eventually, time stands still, right? Okay.
Right.
And so what happens? This is where time gets funky to me. I understand that my watch appears to stop ticking, right? Okay. Right. I get that. And the observation from the outside, how would people be moving fast? Would they be moving slow to us? What would we appear? Are we in freeze frame? Right?
It's all relative to us. Yeah.
Wait.
Let you go.
That's not what's important here. That's the fun stuff, right? What about our cells? Okay, so what? We stop aging? Do our cells also recognize the lack of time? And are we now, for lack of a better word, are we immortal? Right? What is going on at that point? Like I said, I understand our clocks and how we are observed, but what about our cells themselves? What happens with time there?
Yeah, when you're talking about time dilation, they have done some of those experiments. NASA has. You had the two twin brothers, the Scott brothers, who were both astronauts, both in the Astronauts Hall of Fame. And one of them spent a significant amount of time up in the International Space Station. And by the time that he came back down, he was younger than his other brother by, a couple of milliseconds or what have you. But in doing those tests on his biology was also a little bit younger. So, yeah, there is something to that. If we were to enter a black hole or get up against that event horizon, time seemingly stops, then our biology theoretically could also stop aging.
Does that bother you? I mean, it kind of messes with my head a little bit. I mean, are we messing? Are we messing with Mother Nature? Are we messing with? Well, religion comes into play too as well. Yeah.
We're always messing with Mother Nature. We've been doing things like cloning and things like this for a while too. So we're mixing genetics between giving goats some spider DNA so that they can create silk within their milk and produce more silk for industry. We're doing crazy stuff like that already, and we have created some wormholes in the lab. There's a study that just came out last November, in which on the quantum level, they created basically 2 points in space that they were able to connect with what they described as a wormhole. Now, they were very, very small. It's not like you've really passed anything through it, but it's the beginnings of that technology.
This is a thing called a watch.
Yeah, we used to have those.
Yeah, remember these? I didn't notice. I didn't hold this up. This is a watch, and this is a mechanical watch. This is a Swiss-made mechanical automatic. Right. Nice piece. Yep. It's a nice piece, by the way. This watch is time. Right now, to anybody else, this is clicking off seconds, hours, days, right? It's got the whole thing. Time is different and feels different to different people for different reasons. Throughout the day, throughout the hour, right? 5 minutes could be somebody else's 10. But without the invention of the watch or the clock, would we know what time is?
Let's see, that watch is not time, actually. That is a measurement tool to measure this construct that we've created that we call time. Time doesn't actually exist. We use it as a means in which to, measure the day. We use it to figure out when to plant the crops. We use it to figure out when we should show up at the office on time so our supervisor doesn't get angry with us. But time in and of itself is a human construct, and it's going to differ wherever you are in the universe. What we have described as time does not work the same here as, like, say, the moon, although they are trying to standardize time on the moon, which I find kind of
they're doing
funny.
Moon time zones now. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I saw that.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, it's just a human construct used to describe our reality, which time is really a type of dimension. It's the fourth dimension, and that is where our consciousness resides. We have up to 11 hyperspatial dimensions, and first dimension is a line. Second dimension is a plane. Think of it like a piece of paper. Third dimension is, of course, your 3D objects, like my water here and that sort of thing. And then the fourth is time, which is really the dimension on which our consciousness resides. And what's fascinating about that is our consciousness actually resides in a third dimension vessel. So that automatically makes us multidimensional people. And then the fifth dimension, that's where things really start to get interesting, because when you elevate to the fifth dimension, then you start to see time as an object, all time. So everything from point zero to the end is there.
Where does it start, though? Because it seems that there shouldn't be a starting point. Or then there must be negative time if there is.
Yeah, and there's, I guess you could call it a quasi starting point. So we could talk about the Big Bang, but what was before the Big Bang? What was before the Big Bang was another universe, and that's what's going to come after our universe is another universe. We're caught in this constant cycle. Everything in our universe is in a constant cycle. Things on the earth die, decay into the ground, and grow into new life. You can see that with the solar systems. Solar systems will grow up, they'll blow apart, and then the remnants of that, the dust, will form up into another solar system, or other celestial objects and things like that. And same thing with the universe. The universe has grown up, and at some point it is going to die. But when it does, it will create another universe. And we see this a lot in our ancient symbolism too. With in the book Travels Through Time, I make mention of the Ouroboros a lot, and that ancient knowledge is embedded within that symbolism of the constant renewal and recycle. And what's fascinating
keep going.
Yeah. You can tie science. Yeah, you can tie science back into this, where recently here over the last few years, the studies going on in Antarctica with Ice Cube Project, Anita Project, those things, they have discovered, studying the neutrinos there, which are acting very, very strange, basically acting in reverse of the way they should down there. Our science, peer-reviewed papers, scientific journals, are saying that this is evidence of a parallel universe running in reverse time. So if we have our science already telling us, yes, there are other universes around us that are running backwards in reverse, it's parallel to us. Well, if we're running forward and the other universe is running backwards, what happens when they meet that point? When the one dies and the other essentially begins, because it's running in reverse.
So then
your Big Bang.
Okay, so this is where I start to get a little messed up. All right, where shouldn't the clock overlap there if we're going in a linear fashion, right? Or if we look at the Big Bang do we just call that zero and then we have BT before time and then ATM and run like that? Because the space, right? Everything didn't start 13.8 billion years ago. We just had an explosion 13.8 billion years ago. And to that point, over the last month or so, and I was just listening to a recent conversation of Brian Green's, which will definitely, this is part of the discussion tonight, his current work on time. It's incredible. Is this maybe the Big Bang didn't happen? And this is the conversation right now in the world of physics and astrophysics, where suddenly we're presented with, which is fine, and science is nothing but a string of corrections. And if it didn't happen or it didn't create what we thought it created, okay, all right. So, we're learning more every day. But this conversation now about what was here before the Big Bang is something that the scientific circles are starting to discuss more and more, that wasn't the beginning of everything. It was just an event in a much bigger picture.
Oh, there's definitely a bigger picture. And our theoretical physics, and it really comes down to math, because there's nobody that was there to witness it. So they've essentially worked the math, and these are the different things that they figured out. And one of those, of course, was the Big Bang theory. But also our theoretical physics has shown us that we're not the only universe out there. There are other physical universes that they spawn up. Sometimes they don't really get going, never develop galaxies in life, and just peters out. Others get started so quickly that they flame out right away. A universe like ours basically entered into that Goldilocks zone, kind of like planet Earth ended up in the Goldilocks zone of our solar system. But so too with universes, that they'll have the right nuclear forces, the right physics involved, the right chemistry to be able to form up galaxies within it and then sustain life. So, but again, that's all math that has shown us these different things. There's no witnesses. We don't have a telescope powerful enough to say, oh yeah, there's another universe out there. So that's kind of what we're relying on, are these guys with the big brains that are able to math this stuff out for us. And that gives people like us some ideas with which to work and try to connect the dots. And that's what a lot of my work is trying to connect all of those different dots. And I believe the answer is embedded in there somewhere.
The fascinating thing, and you're right, the fascinating thing with the math, as we run the numbers back, and everything is pretty smooth as we go back, everything runs. We use some constants like the speed of light and some constants of gravity and what these measurements are, and it's certainly different chemicals and gases and things and elements. But if back in the beginning, one number off, I don't care if it's 100 digits long, right, goes one way or the other in any multitude of situations, you're right. Everything is off. Gravity doesn't work. Gases don't compress. Stars aren't created. Helium and hydrogen aren't coalescing the way that they need to start fusion, and things just would have never happened. And this probably occurs infinitely, where universes technically are created, but they puff out in nanoseconds, right? Everything happens.
Right.
Something's off just a little bit and it doesn't take off. Or if it does take off, you have a dead universe because the other action isn't there for the creation of life and galaxies. It's a very interesting situation that we find ourselves in. One little thing is absolutely off, we got nothing.
Yeah, and piggybacking on that with the conversation we were talking about earlier, Einstein-Rosen bridge, creating a wormhole. Usually we think of that as traversing to somewhere else in the cosmos. What if that wormhole actually takes us to another universe entirely? That's another aspect worth considering here.
That is another aspect. Boy, and not only takes us there, but them here.
Exactly. And that could be very well some of these extraterrestrials that we're experiencing, that we're witnessing, are not, ETs from our own universe, but ETs from some other universe entirely.
And do you feel that our version of time, the way it feels to us, is it because of the time it takes for one solar cycle, right, around the sun, that gives us a year, right? And so we live to 75, right? 75 waps, right, around the sun. And that is our time scale, combined with the 24-hour day and the moon and the way the oceans and the tides, and we're all locked in on these different aspects of gravity and the way that everything is put together here. But for anybody else that's not living on Earth, is their time scale different?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they are, if they are measuring time in a similar way to how we are, their days, their hours, their cycles are all going to be different. I find it funny in some of the newer Star Wars television shows. They talk about revolutions, rather than talking about a day or a year or anything like that. So it's kind of fascinating. But that's truly, when we're talking about extraterrestrials, their concept of what time is going to be very different than ours, and some. Because a lot of these civilizations will have a much greater head start than us. We've only been around for 4.5 billion years, and some of these other planets and solar systems and galaxies have had much longer time to develop, form life, and all of that. So they may have overcome that burden of time. They may be able to move on into those higher dimensions that time is no longer relevant to them. And is that why when people experience time loss, when they're abducted by an ET, and wherever they go, to them seems like 5 minutes, but then they come back and it's been like 5 days? Is that what's going on here? Those ETs are in some other dimension outside of time because they've learned how to circumvent that entirely.
If you and I are on a starship, right, and we just go, pew, we're gone. And especially, as we approach the speed of light, time is slowing down, and you and I look this good 10,000 years from now. But anyway, what happens to our cycles, our sleep cycles, and our thought processes, and birthdays and everything? Does all of that just go out the window?
Yeah, that's a good question. The biology within us, is set up to a certain rhythm. So our body would have to readjust to whatever those rhythms are. And those individuals who have spent significant amounts of time in space, they have to grapple with those sorts of things. Their body starts becoming accustomed to being in space. They're instructed to try to sleep and wake up at certain intervals to simulate being on Earth, because their body's just not used to it. And then, of course, you have the problem with muscle atrophy and bone mass loss and things like that they are trying to deal with. So there's a lot to consider when talking about long-term space travel for the human body.
Yeah, I mean, what would they do? Just turn off the lights, right? 10 o'clock at night, so the whole ship's dark. 6 a.m. lights are back on, right? And that's it. You don't have a choice, right? Or we throw water on you, right? And get you up out of bed. But yeah, I've often thought about that. How quick would we just forget about those cycles that are a permanent part of our DNA? Our DNA is been put together and programmed with the rising sun, right? And sunset. Right. That's it. Right? That's the way we are. And if we take all of that away, how quick would it just be forgotten? Not only by our habits, but our DNA itself.
Yeah, it will take some generations to work through that. So the first couple generations, like let's say we sent 100 people out into space, and they are going to permanently live out there. And let's not worry about resources, eating, drinking, all that sort. We'll just say that the resources are available. They've done some interesting scientific tests in which they were using glowworms and things like that. Of course, that's different than a human body, but still, in which they created a situation for the glowworm to be able to kick off. And I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but to glow in this specific moment. And they, did this routinely, kind of drilled into the glowworm, this is when you glow, this is when you glow, this is when you glow. Well, this subsequent generations, they removed the situation which would make that glowworm glow. And even though the worms weren't introduced to that particular situation, they would still glow in rhythm when they were supposed to, even though the circumstances weren't really there for them to glow. And it took like 14 generations for that to finally come out of them, and they no longer would glow in that moment. So it would be several generations for the human body to finally evolve and be like, okay, we're past the way sleep and things like that worked on Earth. We are now adjusting to our new situation here. So it would be a while.
What is stacked time theory?
Yeah. Stacked time theory. So we were talking about before, time doesn't exist. It's a human construct. And what I believe time really is take where you're sitting right now. Every moment that has happened, is happening, and will happen are all there concurrently. Each moment stacked up like a stack of photographs. And we don't really know what the catalyst is, but each moment has its own frequency. And sometimes there will be two moments within that stack of photos that will resonate at the same frequency, and they'll bleed over into each other, and we'll get a glimpse of another moment in time. And those in that other moment will take a look at us and see us almost like as if we're the ghosts or whatever it is they may be seeing us as. So this would be something like a time slip or what have you. This is a thought that occurred to me decades ago as I was doing other research. And so I started diving into this. Okay, all times concurrent, stacked up like a stack of photographs. And of course, I came across Einstein's work during this, and he had actually some very similar concepts with the space-time continuum in his block universe, which was very fascinating, that all time is concurrent. He even said time is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. So this is this idea, these photographs stacked up, and that's why I call it stacked time theory, but really are each moment of what we would call time. So if you were to be able to adjust the frequency of your consciousness, your personal resonance, to whatever the frequency of another moment in time is, you could conceivably will your consciousness to another point in time and be able to witness it.
Explain.
That's
a bit too much for my tiny brain. And it sounded like for a second there, I got it. Right, for a second there. So I'm almost there. There. Is it kind of like bleed through, on paper? I understand the photograph analogy, but you know what I mean? Like bleed through when you see type from one page, kind of like on a second page, and you peel them apart, and that over time you get bleed through on stacks of paper, and the longer they're there, it goes through another stack and another piece and another piece and another piece of paper.
So let me give an example here. The famous poet Goethe. He's in Germany. He's on the road to Dressenheim. And, he's basically having an affair with a girl. And he's kind of lost in his thoughts as he's going down the road. On the other side of the road, he notices this gentleman walking. He's in this gold-trimmed gray suit, looking very dapper. And as Goethe turns and looks at him, he suddenly disappears. He's like, "Oh, that was really odd. That was really bizarre. What happened to that guy?" Years later, he's walking down that same road in the opposite direction, and as he's crossing that same spot, he looks down and realizes, "Oh my gosh, I'm the guy in the gold trimmed gray suit. I actually witnessed myself. So there was something there in that moment where he was able to tune into another moment that he crossed that bridge, another moment in time in which he crossed that bridge years later. Or not, I can't remember if it was a bridge. It was a part of the road in any case. But he was able to tune into it and get a glimpse of that. So yes, in a sense, it's a bleed over, like you were saying. We would call that something like that a time slip. A lot of people chalk that one up to like a doppelganger type of a case, but it's not really a doppelganger. It's himself.
Some would say deja vu. He experienced a
Right.
healthy dose of deja vu.
Yeah. And deja vu is another example there of where we're getting a glimpse of another moment in time and we can't quite place, okay, where did I see this? This is extremely familiar. Did I see it in a dream? Have I been here before? Some people say they may have been someplace in a past life. They're getting a glimpse of that. So, so deja vu is another way for us to interact with other moments in time.
Okay, well, let's circle back to deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to the doppelganger aspect of this. And I'm not sure if it could have been a doppelganger. How do you resolve that? How did he resolve it?
Yeah, the way he resolved it was that that basically, I use the word tune in, but basically that he calls it almost like a euphoric type of a dream, that there was something with his consciousness that was able to conceive a moment of himself being there on that same point in the road at another point in time. And because he said that he was, basically as he was going down this road and, thinking about this woman, he was really in like a type of a meditative state. Kind of, how you get lost in your thoughts sometimes as you could be like doing the dishes, mowing the lawn, driving, right? You get in that kind of meditative state, you just zone out. It's kind of what he was doing at the time. And so since he was in that more kind of lucid type of state, his mind was able to tune into another moment in which he was there on that road. Basically his energy recognized his energy at another point right there.
It's a good thing he didn't pick him up as a hitchhiker.
Right.
When something like that happens and we don't stop, right, and freeze frame the moment or take action on the moment, we let it go like he did, right? It took a while. It took a year, right, to come full circle.
Yeah, it was like a couple of years. Yeah.
Right. What would happen? Would the universe implode? Right? What would happen if you run into your own doppelganger? Right? It's a time slip. You see yourself on the side of the road and you pick yourself up or you make contact. But, and where that reality is bleeding, right? Those universes are crossing over, whatever it may be. What happens if you do make contact?
Yeah. People, I've heard a couple of these stories where in the end, they realize it was themselves. And a lot of people tend to run because they don't understand what it is they're looking at.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So one story that was conveyed to me a couple of years ago when I was doing my work on shadow entities was a young man when he was a kid, when he was a child, he had walked into the kitchen and he saw standing by the kitchen table this tall, dark, hooded figure, scared him to death, ran out of the kitchen. Years later, he's in the kitchen. He's at the kitchen table making a sandwich. He's wearing a hoodie, and he notices in the doorway this short little shadow person walk in, and all of a sudden, boom, darts right back out. And in that moment, he realizes, oh my God.
Right.
That was actually myself. So, it just only resonated on a level that it came across as a shadow. He didn't see himself fully formed, but it was definitely himself.
Can we, how do I say this? Can we slow it down enough measurements need to be taken. Science needs to get involved. You need to have observation. You know what I mean? And then get into a repetition. Is there do you think that we will achieve a point where we can look at it this way?
I think science in some aspects is trying to do that. You had people years ago, ESP studies, parapsychology studies, things like that, where they were studying some of those sorts of things. They've kind of gone in a different direction these days. We're doing things like trying to create wormholes in the lab and those sorts of things. So I think there's a happy medium somewhere where they'll finally, put these different things together, because they are all connected. They are all related. But the question always becomes, science always needs something very repeatable, right? And when these things happen, seeing a doppelganger yourself, or seeing a time slip where all of a sudden, there's another little family that's in the room from like the 1700s, and they turn and look at you, surprised to see you. It's very challenging to make that repeat again and again and again. We don't know how to do that. We're kind of lost as to what the catalyst is to make that happen. Otherwise science would probably be all over that right now.
How does stack time theory actually work? And here's the real question. If we have multiverses, right? If there are infinite versions of you, right? Okay. And these are playing out to the left and right to infinity. Again, this is physics talking, not the wacky world of Jimmy Church. This is part of the number crunch that's going on today. So that's what's playing out. That's how qubits work. That's how quantum computers work. That's how entanglement runs. And it's a crazy part of science. So is that bleed through? How does that bleed through happen in those situations? What is making stack time theory, the stack version of time, operate?
Right. So, I mean, really everything comes back down to energy, electromagnetism, right? Everything has an electric charge within it. And just like take the human body right now, the human body standing resonance, or no, that would actually be sitting resonance, is about 9 to 16 hertz. And everybody resonates at a little bit of a different frequency, a little bit of a different level. So does the world around us. Everything around us has its own resonance, energy, vibration to it. And our time, the river, for lack of a better term, that we are trapped within, has an electrical attraction to us that keeps us within there, keeps us within the river. There's, you think of a river, what makes it flow? It's not the water itself. It's actually the banks of the river that keeps everything tight together so that it could flow downstream. If the banks weren't there, everything would gush out and become one big pond or lake or whatever, and you could see everything from above. But it's not. It keeps us flowing. And so there's something with that electrical charge. It keeps the boundary together, keeps that river flowing. But we have these moments. Like I said, I don't really think it's a river. Time is really a stack. And it all comes down to what is the catalyst? How do we change our frequency? How do we change our vibration within our current setting to match that of another moment so that we can actually see it? And that's really the key. It seems to happen, almost on a whim sometimes. Like there'll be an electrical storm, when we talk like paranormal activity and things like that. A lot of times we see these things after a big storm. Well, there was something in the air that charged the energy at that location that made it a little bit easier to see some of these things. So when you charge up an area, how do we make that happen? That's the big question, Jimmy.
And how much of the bleed through in the stack, in your estimation, makes it through? In some cases, is it 100%? Right? Is it like a fully formed world that comes through? I could say person, but it may be around it too as well.
It varies. I gave an example there a little while ago of shadow. Okay, it couldn't fully manifest. The kid saw shadows when he was a younger adult. Again, he saw a shadow. Good to him, it seemed like a fully formed guy. That was there. And others, sometimes it comes off as like an apparition. So it's a mix. It's almost as if as that bleed through starts to happen, there's like a strength to it. And think of it like kind of tuning a radio station, right? And I know we don't really do this anymore when you had the knobs, right? And sometimes you get close to the station, it's a little staticky. You're getting some of it, but not all. And you have to get right on that precise band to get it full force. And when these things are happening, a lot of times you don't get right on the direct band that you need. It comes in staticky.
Would that explain, and it would explain everything, but would that explain ghosts? Right?
Right. Yeah, that could certainly explain some of the different apparitions and ghosts and things like this that people are seeing. They may not be seeing a human spirit. They may actually just be seeing another point in time play out in front of them.
I hate to make this tie in, but it seems like Sasquatch has it all figured out then.
Oh, I mean, why not?
You know what I mean? In that, I think the interdimensional side of Sasquatch and Bigfoot and those ideas and those theories there, I think it's pretty valid. But Sasquatch is when I'm sorry, I got to be PC correct.
He or she.
Yeah, what's a PC correct version of saying Bigfoot where it's all inclusive?
That would be a type of species, right? So if you're saying human, Bigfoot, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't imply gender. Yeah.
So I could say Bigfoot. Okay. Doesn't imply gender. Yeah. Is that fully formed, right? We can see hair, we can see colors, we can see eyes, we can see features, but disappears and appears like that.
Right.
That seems to me that Bigfoot would have it all figured out.
Perhaps. Or they could be somebody that's trying to figure it out, coming in and out so quickly like they do sometimes. A lot of times it seems like they're not able to sustain it, right? So they're able to stick around for a little while. Could be seconds, could be minutes, could be a couple hours, but then they're gone. He or she is gone. And so maybe they, whatever this species is, they could be on the verge of fully figuring it out and aren't quite there yet.
Would speaking about Bigfoot, and I'm going to apply this we're going to go off on a whole nother tangent after the break.
Yeah.
But would so many today that are applying their mindset to ET and UFOs and UAPs and what have you, there's a lot of talk about them being us, time travelers from the future, that it's not ET at all. It's just us from the future, which actually is a crazier. I'd rather have it just be ET. I would rather.
There's a lot of possibilities that we're dealing here with. I mean, people have been talking about it, possibly being us from the future for a while now. It's not that new of a notion. That's entirely possible that in the future we have figured out time travel and we could be coming back here. But let's not limit ourselves to that. It could very well be, think about this, could still be an extraterrestrial that in the future has come to this planet after humanity is gone, figures out time travel and travels back in time to learn about the history of the planet that they have colonized and are inhabiting. Or in that same vein, could be if humanity has, it doesn't mean that humanity has died off. Humanity could have left the planet or whatever. But again, in a situation, humanity is gone. Another intelligent life form develops here on Earth and develops technology to, again, travel back in time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a human time traveler from the future. We could be talking about ET time travelers coming from the future. We could be talking about other indigenous life forms, intelligent life forms that grew here on Earth and evolved here on Earth, going back in time. So we have a lot of possibilities here.
That is such an interesting take, right? They come to Earth. Earth is not populated anymore, right? And whatever the landscape is. But I heard about these guys. Right?
Yeah, what happened there?
Yeah,
Let's go back and take a look.
Let's go back and check out the 50s. They had this dude, Elvis, and this other guy, 2023, Mike Ricksecker. So let's go check. You know what I mean? And to go back and maybe it's Justin Bieber, whatever it may be, but to come back because they heard about how cool this place once was.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. So I don't like to kind of limit myself and compartmentalize myself into one area. Let's take a look at a lot of different possibilities here. I think we have a lot of different things on the table here that that could be very well what's happening around us. And I don't think it's just one thing. I think it's a lot of different things. So I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, all these UAPs that we're seeing, they're all time travelers, whether they're human or another species. I think it's a mix. I think some of them are extraterrestrial travelers from another place in our cosmos today. I think some of them are time travelers. I think some of them are interdimensional beings that are coming here from some other place in space-time, some other, realm of existence that, we humans have not been able to get to yet. It's a mixed bag.
It has to be a mixed bag. It has to, and you know why you're right? You're always right. You're much smarter than I am
about that.
But seriously, we just now, and I don't think we've fully wrapped our head around, but we are just now starting to understand how big things really are, right? Mm-hmm. And it's crazy big. And most of it we'll never see again, because as the universe expands faster than the speed of light, galaxies by the trillions to the infinite are dropping off the edge of the cliff, right? To never be seen again. We will never, ever, ever visit them, know about them, see them, or know how many there were. Right? That's
absolutely. In the 14 billion years, how much has already come and gone? Yeah.
That's how big it is. So how varied, when we look, how varied are the species and life forms that have discovered it? How varied, how different are, what parts of the universe, even our galaxy, have they come from? It's like, I think the number, it's not quite infinite big, but it's like close. It's got to be
pretty close enough.
Number. Yeah. It's got to be a huge number.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just take a small sample size of our planet, and you think of all the life forms that have developed and died off, before humans even came around. So yeah, and you expand that out to the rest of the universe. Oh, it's massive.
Yeah. It's massive. It's a huge number. So it would represent so many different things, Mike. Why spaceships, sightings and craft don't replicate themselves, right? There's not a whole lot of repetition, but why would there be, right? Why are there so many different, why do people expect every ET to be taking me to your leader? Why do you expect that? Why exactly. It would just be absolutely different. Look at the varied, if you and I went to a planet together, right? And we stepped off the ship, they may think that you and I are from different planets. Right?
Yeah, probably.
We look similar, but we're not exact.
But different enough. Yeah.
But we expect every ET to be, right, molecular.
Yeah, every gray alien looks exactly the same, right?
Right. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. And that it would have to be that way with things that are aware of this planet. When I say things, it could be anything. It could be craft, intelligently controlled craft, AI control, or maybe something with an actual pilot in it or not. And then when you get down to that level, it's a numbers game. It would have to be a variety of species. It would just have to be.
Yeah, and there's an infinite number of species that are out there, and I always get a kick out of the Fermi Paradox. How can we sit here and talk about there definitely being ETs out there when supposedly we haven't, had any contact with one? And it's like, well, that's really a the human species, really is very arrogant, right? And we look at ourselves as we are the epitome of everything in the universe, and it's like, well, wait a minute. To the whole rest of the universe, we are the ETs. So automatically that means we know the Milky Way galaxy has at least one extraterrestrial life form. It more because of all this different species on our planet, but at least one planet there with extraterrestrial life, and that's us. So you just do the math from there and expand that out to the rest of the universe, and there's there's how many trillions upon trillions of different possible planets. Yeah,
it's so true. You and I step off our flying saucer, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in Alpha Centauri, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? We're in Zeta B, and we step off, and we see a little alien kid, playing in his backyard. He's gonna run in the house and say, "Mommy, I just saw an alien."
Exactly.
That's what's gonna happen. And we have to look at it that way. There isn't another way to look at it. We're out there trying to find exoplanets with our primitive monkey brain selves. We have built and flown, launched and positioned the James Webb. Wow, right?
Yeah.
Heck, just a mind blowing. Have you seen
the images from there are amazing? Yeah.
Have you seen the documentary that just came out on Netflix about it?
I have not. No,
watch it.
It's on my list, but
it's only 1 hour, but so worth it. I wish it was like 5 hours long. It's 1 hour, but and I had no idea the size of it. I didn't know. I didn't know how big that solar reflector was. It blocks the sunlight, the sunscreen. I had no idea, and how they built it. Anyway, just go and watch it. But yeah, so we've gotten that done with our little in 300 years of science, right? You go back to Newton until now. Okay, go 400 years. So we'll throw Galileo in the mix. And
there you go.
Okay, so let's go 400 years of science. And we're out there searching for exoplanets, and we found them. How far along would a technically advanced race be in front of us in the search for exoplanets or interstellar travel if they had another 1,000 years jump on us?
Oh, right? Yeah. And a lot of them have
just 1,000
millions of years on
That's
us.
what I'm saying. Just 1,000. Where are we going to be in 1,000 years?
Right. Yeah. At the rate that we've been growing and expanding and increasing our knowledge and technology. Oh yeah. It's going to be off the charts.
Off the charts.
We can't even fathom it at this point.
And so, when we talking about time in a linear sense and where we are on the time scale of the universe at 13.8 billion years, 4.5 billion years it took us, right, to put this planet together with Elmer's glue, get it spinning, get everything happening.
Right.
It took all of that evolution to blast through to get us to this last 400 years. If anything else out there had 1 million years on us, just 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. All right. That changes things. So, yes, there are a lot of ET races out there that are aware of this planet.
Oh,
infinite.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah. I think people don't understand. We throw numbers out there, and it's like, I don't think people realize how big some of these numbers are, because you think of, okay, universe is around, 14 trillion years old, or 14 billion years old. Sorry. 14 billion years old. I think it's like 13.8. The Earth is 4.5. It's like, okay, they see 14, they see 4.5. Oh, that's not that big. But think about this. Okay. The dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. That's just over 1% of the length of the age of the Earth. And that was a long time ago. So when you talk about, that there's another 9 billion years that the universe had to grow ahead of us, that's a long time for them to develop technology. Yeah.
That's a long time. And here's the other trippy thing. Then we'll go to a break real quick. It's a short one, 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. Here's the other crazy aspect about this. And if you really start to analyze this is kind of what trips me out the most. If you look at 13.8 and then you look at the Earth and you start to look at these numbers and start to understand stuff, the 13.8 billion years, that is a time scale from now backwards. But the universe, the observable universe, with the expansion that has happened, is 95 billion light years across. 95 billion light years. People try to equate
that we know of.
That we
know of.
That's the observable part of the universe. And then we chop that out. That's how big things are. Our Milky Way is 150,000 light years across. 150. And when you back out, this is the mind-blowing thing. Our Milky Way is so big. We've got 1 trillion planets, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least, because we have 1 trillion stars, and we know that every star has at least one planet. Our sun has 8, 9, depends on who you're talking to, maybe 10, 12 planets.
Yeah.
And we can equate that right over to our own Milky Way. And our own Milky Way is an insignificant speck of nothingness in the universe. That's how big it is. We don't understand. We don't understand. Avi Loeb, Mike, back October last year, November last year, I think it was around then. I went out to dinner with him, and so we're sitting at this table, and I got corrected by Avi Loeb.
Oh,
easy enough to do with my little lack of gray matter between my ears, this mass. But so Avi and I were talking about the size of the Milky Way, and we're throwing these numbers around, and I go, well, maybe, we're talking about 250 billion planets, and the numbers are increasing every single day. He goes, no, over 1 trillion. I said, yeah, but that's where you start. And so people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and others, the big brains out there, these are the numbers that they throw around. So I'm not so sure, going back to Fermi before we hit the break, I'm not so sure Fermi would have that argument today. I don't think he would have that blow up in the
I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a different era. Yeah. Understandably, it was a different era. So.
And back then, here's the crazy part. Back then, there was still only one Earth, right? That's it, right? They wondered about what else was out there. They didn't know that. And the other part about it is, through the flying saucer hysteria, back then, Los Alamos, 1952, those physicists were still with the original ET hypothesis, which is rivets, metallic craft, and little green dudes with antennas, right? Right.
That's basic Newtonian physics, right? Yeah.
That's it. They didn't have another way of looking at it, did they?
No, they're pretty limited in their scope, and really over the last 80 years, I mean, we've come a long ways. We really have. We've been able to expand our technologies. We're observing exoplanets. James Webb, of course, is magnificent. They have a really nice, because I was just down at the Space Center about a week and a half ago, just before my birthday. They have a really nice display there for James Webb, so you can see what the differences are between some of the old images that we had beforehand and what James Webb has now. And it's phenomenal how far we've come in so little time.
It's so interesting how Hubble, not the Hubble telescope, the original Hubble, Edwin, right? And so he's up here on the top of Mount Wilson, and he had the biggest telescope in the world at that time, 100-inch telescope, and he's looking through that in 1922, and that's when he started to see these redshifts and started to formulate the idea that the universe wasn't static. But at that time, they thought that the other galaxies that we were seeing around us, Andromeda being one, you go in the southern hemisphere, you go into Australia, you look up in the sky, you'll see these pink blotches up in the air, right? Up in the night sky. You see a bunch of them from there. From here, naked eye, you could see Andromeda on a good night. But anyway, so he's looking through in his telescope, and they were calling those gaseous nebulae. Right? They thought they were blobs of gas. And to go from that moment, that's one lifetime ago, man. That's 1922. This is 2023. So
Yeah,
100
years
ago, that's how far we have come. We had no idea with the amount of galaxies out there, and most people lose that through the concept of time. that it's been a very short window where we have accumulated all this knowledge, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal how far we've come. And you think, 100 years ago, they were laughing at Nikola Tesla saying, oh, yeah, in the future, we're going to have a device we can put in our pockets that holds the knowledge of the world. And now we're walking around with cell phones. He didn't know it was going to be a cell phone, but still, he conceived that it wasn't going to be that far down the road that, we would have technology like that. And here we are today. So, where are we going to be 100 years from now? Yeah,
Mike Ricksecker is with us. His new book is out. It is called, are you ready? Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel and Stacked Time Theory. We've got the links up for it in social media down below and also in our chat. Mike, stay right there. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Please visit all of our sponsors. We're taking a quick break here. All of the links are below. We'll be right back. Join us November 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2023 as Disclosure Fest Foundation and Fade to Black Radio presents Stairway to the Stars, a Human Origins Science and Technology Expo, live at the Luxor Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip, with live talks, lectures, and workshops by world-acclaimed researchers and authors. This is Jimmy Church, by the way, and I'll be your host all weekend long, featuring topics like human origins, ancient technologies, indigenous teachings, workshops, a mass meditation, yoga and sound healing, music, and so much more. Don't miss our intimate sky watch and meteor shower over the infamous Area 51 airspace in Rachel, Nevada, with special surprise celebrity hosts guiding us through the night. Also introducing our Disclosure Fest VR Starship area with dozens of rides. You've got to check it out. This event will sell out. For more information and tickets, please visit disclosurefest.org. Hi, everybody. Jimmy Church here. Very special announcement, and that is we are shipping Fade to Black T-shirts again. It's been almost 2 years. We did a full upgrade to the website, so you can head over to jimmychurchradio.com. It's all simple to do, and it's right there. Remember, we broadcast 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. We bring you the best, the brightest, the most knowledgeable and amazing guests, the best conversations. We do that 4 nights a week. We also do 4 days a week. We broadcast the news, and we do that live too as well. It's not a one-man show. I do it with website support. I do it with producers. I do it with writers and artists. All contribute to the show. The best way to help support what we do here is with the Fade to Black T-shirt. And you can get your Fade to Black T-shirt one of 2 ways. First, go to jimmychurchradio.com, order a shirt. It's really that simple. You're going to get a tracking number, it's going to get shipped, and it's going to get autographed. The second way to get a shirt is with a Game Changer membership. Now, the Game Changer membership not only includes a free T-shirt, but you get a private email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads. You have full access to the website, and everything includes free shipping, and everything is autographed. So help support the show. Get your Fade to Black T-shirt today. The links are below. You can just go to jimmychurchradio.com, and it's right on the website. So there you go. I'm Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. I'm so excited that I just have one thing to say. Go Beckley Teppy. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Mike Ricksecker. His new book, it just released today, and we've got the links up for it right now. It's called Travels Through Time, Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel.
Bless you.
Man, I didn't hit that hit too fast. That hit too fast. See, you know what that was? You know what
What's
that was? That was the Mandela effect, time traveler.
There it is.
that was. You can't be divulging these truths on the air.
It'll get you.
The links are out. The book was released today, and it's an honor and a pleasure to have Mike on with us tonight to announce the release of his new book. And so the links are there. Everybody go and get it. Check it out. I was sent. I have the privilege of time traveling. I read the book already, so, but I got the advanced copy and started reading it as soon as I got it. And now, Mandela effect, though. Can we discuss that for a second?
Yeah.
And I know you address this, and I want everybody to get the book. But something that I have often talked about when it comes to the Mandela effect, because more so than not, my interest in the Mandela effect has all been personal, right? It's my own, my own, right? Either I've got some kinds of mind-altering psychosis, memory-altering psychosis, and so does the rest of the planet, where we are having problems remembering things because we can go and look at the history and see that we were indeed wrong. And that's the part that messes.
And it still sits wrong with you somehow. Yeah.
Cup of noodles still messes with me, man. It's cup noodles.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones. And a lot of times it's branding like that, Cup of Noodles or Oscar Mayer or Fruit Loops. And yeah, a lot of times it's things like that or pop culture references. Yeah.
Right. And I can strike that up to different things. All right. But it just happens over and over again. And it's not just to me, it's to everybody else. So I jumped on the air one night and I said, what if it's like time travelers? Right, going back and altering, right, the internet, altering images, altering this, and so historically, it catches up to us, and we happen to go back and look at something, and catch it.
Right.
It's like Occam's razor. It's like the simplest explanation for this mass psychosis.
Yeah, or the fallout. Really from something else that's been changed. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody went back in time and changed the spelling of Oscar Mayer, right? It could be that something else was changed along the way, and it eventually resulted in that, as like the butterfly effect. It had repercussions far down the road that nobody really understood until all of a sudden you have this this different branding, like the cornucopia on Fruit of the Looms. Did it or did it not have cornucopia? Stuff like that. So where it hit me, had nothing to do with any of those like that. Like where I ran into this, you won't find on one of those top 50 lists, but I detail it in the book, and you read it. And so that was, my mother and I with the movie Soul Survivor, and as we're remembering this movie. We could not remember the title of it, without giving too much away of what's in the book. We're talking about, to us was this old black and white movie. World War II plane had crashed. There were survivors there. They didn't realize that they were dead, and they're actually ghosts playing baseball out in the desert in North Africa. And so we're trying to remember, what the heck was that movie? What the heck was that movie? And so I was like, Mom, I'll go look it up tonight when I get home. And so I'm Googling and all that, doing some research. I can't find the dang thing, and, I'm a researcher, right? That's what I do. Going into all these different databases and things like this, going into like aviation, history films and things like that. And I finally found some chatter on a forum buried somewhere out there where there were other people from across the world, people in other countries with the same issue. They're trying to find this movie and can't. And, a couple of suggestions were, you're misremembering this. Either it was an episode from the Twilight Zone. I knew it wasn't Twilight Zone. Or it was this movie Soul Survivor, which came out in like 1970, color movie that had William Shatner. And it's like, I call my mom like, do you remember this movie at all being in color with William Shatner? Because I sure don't. She's like, no. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go and watch the movie anyway. And as I'm watching it, it's like, no, this is not it. This is not it. But finally, there's a line in the movie that pops up that I remembered clear as day once I heard it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is that movie. How in the world is this possible? So it's a really bizarre phenomenon.
And you thought it was in black and white.
Yeah. I thought it was in black and white, like either late 1950s, early 1960s, something like that. No way did it have William Shatner in it. Also in our recollection of it, not just mine and my mother's, but also some of these other people talking about this particular movie. The ghosts in this movie did not realize that they were dead to begin with. But when you watch this particular movie, no, they know that they're dead. and they're just kind of hanging out playing ghostly baseball, which was kind of the one sticking point. That's kind of like the thing that really stuck throughout the movie was, okay, these ghosts are playing baseball. But yeah, there were so many other details that were off.
Did they play baseball in Shatner's movie?
Yes, they did. They did. And so that was one of the things that was like, this could be because they are playing baseball. And the line was that ended up coming up about, I don't know, halfway through the movie. Because Shatner is part of the team that they've discovered this plane and they're doing a salvage recovery, that sort of thing of it, like a few years down the road. And the one line that came up was there's this guy that's a part of the crew that's a little bit slow. And he goes over to where where their salvage team is. He's listening to the game on the radio, and baseball game. And he comes back to the guys later on. They're like, "So what'd you think of the game?" It's like, "Oh, it was a good game, but I don't understand how they moved Brooklyn to Los Angeles." As if they physically moved He's talked about the baseball team, the Dodgers, but he says it in a sense that he thought that they moved the entire city of Brooklyn to LA. And I remember, laughing at that as a kid. It's like, oh my gosh, this is that movie. There's that line.
Yeah, here it is. William Basehart, Vince Edwards. Okay. William Shatner, music by Paul Glass. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It was a CBS Friday night movie. That's what it was.
It came out in like 1970. I wasn't even born yet in 1970. I was born 4 years later. So
how would you? Yeah, that's. I am going to watch this movie tonight. I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent enough movie, but yeah, and Shatner's all over the place in it. And it's like, yeah, my mom's a Trekkie. It's like she would remember Captain Kirk,
Okay. All right. The bodies of the 8 crew were actually found in 1960. It's loosely based on about a plane that flew one combat mission in World War II and disappeared and was never seen again.
Yeah, and the reason why it's called Soul Survivor is there's one guy they aren't able to find his body, and apparently it's under the tail of the plane.
Okay, so I'm gonna watch this tonight. Yeah. Now, so the Mandela effect spin on this. Do you think that if we pulled that out, we can stay on this though, in that could it be like Superman Bizarro World, right, where you have an alternate version of this, but you have blonde hair, right, and you're uncool, right? Okay, so there's that, and the two worlds are bleeding, and so the Fruit Loops or the Fruit of the Loom or what have you are bleeding into each other, and maybe there was another version of this world, a black and white version of Soul Survivor that was made 20 years prior. right? And that's
Right.
and you and your mom experienced
that. Yeah. Well,
or
we talked earlier.
the version of you that watched the movie,
hmm
the
Yeah,
20-year-old version of. Wow.
we talked earlier of that parallel universe running in reverse time. What if we encountered that universe, and in that particular universe, that was the version?
Well, okay. That's what Brian Greene is working on right now.
Okay.
And now Brian Greene, who I'm just thankful that he's not totally open mind. He's closed down on a lot of different things, especially about spirituality. But even then, he kind of leans. He does. He leans a little bit. Consciousness. He's not afraid to talk about it. But then there's this. His current research that he's working on right now is communication, okay, across the universe, not at the speed of light, but at the speed of now.
So entanglement.
Okay. Now, he kind of does a connection there. He also does a connection with the possibility of a wormhole-ish type of situation. But he says this, that the math that they are working on right now with the evidence that they have in front of them, check this, that you can send out a message and the message is replied to before it is sent. Okay.
It's like instant cassettes from Spaceballs.
Right.
Before the movie's done being made.
What the hell am I looking at? Right.
You're looking at now.
Yeah. No, when is then? Then. Yeah. And now Brian Greene is very matter of fact about this. Now, that is when we just stop and ponder the significance of that statement, right? Where you send out a message, the message is received instantly, just like you're talking across the room to someone. The reply to that message arrives before the original message is sent.
No, I get it, because, like typing out a message or what have you, I mean, that takes a few moments, but the thought's already in your head. Everything that you want to say, and if you're going to type like a one-liner, that's already in your head before you even start typing it. So if you're able to basically communicate with that thought rather than typing it out, but you type it out anyway, sure, a response could conceivably come back before you finish typing it because the thought's already been picked up on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at the big brain on Mike. Wow. Yeah. Well, that would make a lot of sense, right? So you have the physical, the mechanical side of the logistics, right? The amount of time it would take for you to speak, but the thought is already there. So the entanglement is there. Message received. You're doing the mechanical version of creating the message, whether you're speaking it, right? But by that time, it's already entangled and gone.
Right. Yeah. And that's why you have this idea that some of these species that have been around far longer than us, or even higher dimensional beings, don't need a mouth. They don't need vocal cords and things like this. It's all through thought transference because the thought is like that. It's instantaneous. And so why bother with trying to speak it if the thought's already there?
Somebody just asked, what is my T-shirt? Sorry about that. I wasn't showing off, but just for
Steve Vai, there we go.
It's the Steve Vai logo.
Nice.
That's what that is, Steve Vai. He is an alien. He is an alien.
He is pretty impressive, yes.
He's pretty impressive. When he came out with an album called Alien Love Secrets. Okay, that right there, right, is pretty on point. But the album and the videos, he did 3 videos with a couple friends of mine, Chris Frazier on drums and a friend of mine playing bass. They played on another album that I worked on at the same time. So anyway, but they did the videos all painted in silver. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Silver paint. I don't know how you would suffer through that, and the metallic. What's the word for paint when you add color? What's the word for it? Anyway,
When you add pigment?
yeah, pigment.
Yeah, pigment. All right.
Silver pigment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Your
that's
skin, and then doing videos under hot lights.
mhm. Yeah, that's you have to endure a lot going through that. And my hat's off to those guys who do it. So
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Steve, the union says we get bonus pay. But yeah, Steve certainly is an alien, without a doubt. But yeah, we need to start to look at this. And the way that Brian Greene lays this out is he starts bringing up aliens and communication across, the universe. That communication at the speed of light isn't going to do anybody any good. You can't wait 10,000 years if you're 10,000 light years away from something to yell for help or to give directions or, to fix a flat tire, whatever it may be. You're sending out that distress signal. Or, so what does the planet look like? Well, and then you have to wait 10,000 years for the reply to come back. Or, and that's what he's working on here. It's
fantastic.
Now, this is the other part, though. Let's address this.
Okay.
If there are traversable wormholes, or there is the ability to send out communications through space, through weaknesses in space-time, right? Where space-time is altered, which is kind of what he's talking about here. But how would you be able to pinpoint where you are speaking to, right? There's got to be some kind of GPS locate, you know what I mean? To get that communication.
Like where's the wormhole sort of thing?
Yeah. Or where's it end, right? You may be able to step into it, but where does it exit? And how would you pinpoint these communications this quickly across the universe? You would have to know exactly where you're going to and where you're going to send your reply back to. You would have to have coordinates. And that's the part of this that I have difficulty understanding. And that includes space travel like this and bending space.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because you have to be able to navigate through space. So how do you do that? What are the well, and time is actually one of those coordinates to find your, where you are in space. Time is one of those elements that you actually need. Again, time being a human construct, so it's a measurement that we've come up with, and that gives us our, three-dimensional space in that regards. So yeah, what's the route that one has to take? And again, I kind of go back to that, that Chandra X-ray and looking at the filaments, the gaseous filaments. Can we, ride the wave of one of those and, be able to communicate maybe quicker through one of those filaments that connects this galaxy and that galaxy? So it's almost like a big neural network, right? A big web. And yeah, well, I can't say I'm sure, but I would like to think that some sort of more advanced intelligent civilization that's been around longer than us has figured that out. Because when you look at those filaments and the web that connects the universe together, it splits off and goes in different directions. So, if you send a message down one route, well, then where is it? How does it get directed? Here on Earth, when we, the internet, it's a bunch of routers that are interconnected across the world. And, back in the earliest, to us, it's all instantaneous now, but back in the day, you had to know your routing tables and make sure that, well, if I want to get, from here to, I don't know, New Orleans, I have to make sure that it's going through this router in Washington, DC over here. So I need to get that IP address in the routing table so the message can go from here to there and then down to New Orleans or what have you. And so, I would suspect that somebody who is doing this sort of intercommunications around the universe has set something up similar. Again, this is the context of our, current technology. They probably have something way beyond that if they're doing that sort of thing.
Well, it makes sense though, because what most people, even today, with our advanced knowledge of computers and cell phones and apps and live streaming, people still think that what we are doing here is one continuous stream connection into your studio, and it's one continuous stream coming back to me, and everybody is watching this stream at the same time. The reality is these are tiny little packets of information that are going out all over the place. They have a destination, and they're all instructed to eventually get there. They do. It's held up in buffer, right? Reassembled, right? All those packets are reassembled in order, and then the stream is received. And it's the same thing with email, or when you send a JPEG, an image, that gets split up into packets, and it goes all over the place. It's not one continuous stream that comes through. The same idea could be applied to the universe. Yeah, that's
absolutely
a really good point.
Yep. Yeah, and that, when you start talking about something like the simulated universe, a lot of people go down the route of thinking of it like a computer, and I think in some ways, conceptually, it has some of the same properties and principles and things like that, but I don't think that this universe is inside a computer simulation. We've put that on. We had The Matrix, was a huge pop culture success, and that's our current technology, right? But 100 years ago, when we were talking about Hubble, Tesla, and all that, we didn't have the silicon microchip. The silicon microchip was decades down the road. So when they were talking, and Tesla even had an idea of artificial intelligence. He had his automaton, and he's even talking about putting artificial intelligence into an automaton of himself. But he's thinking, radio waves, gears, metal parts, something very mechanical. But the idea was there, the concept was there. Along comes the silicon microchip. Okay, now we're able to take those properties into some other, higher piece of technology. Great, fine. But what's going to be 100 years down the road? We were talking about this earlier. 1,000 years down the road, it's going to be things that we can't even, fathom at this point in time. So I think when we're talking this sort of thing, if we're talking, the construction of the universe, how it works, if it's a simulation, it's more, organic and biological in nature with some of those similar properties, but very, very different than what we can actually perceive with our minds right now.
Here's a yes. Let me. This is how my twisted brain works. All right. Same concept. I'm in full I'm right there with you. I'm walking next to you on this. Let's take it a step further. We have virtual reality today, right? We can put on the glasses and go into these worlds, right? Play a game or not, or just go into a virtual world. That's today. 25 years from now, kids, and we're talking about, could we be living in a simulation? Well, 25 years from now, the technology of a virtual video game in that world where you are interfacing with AI driven participants in the game. Okay, right? And now, we have different names for them today, and you have to have them, and they're actually pretty smart, right? You have to have an interaction with other. Anyway,
sure.
So 25 years from now, some kid enters this world, and it is completely simulated. And at the same time, 50 million other kids around the world playing the same game, but in their own worlds. Now, are we now talking about the multiverse, but for real? Where, you know what I mean? You've got 50 million.
Yeah, conceptually.
Their own versions of the game, and in interacting, and AI engines running, and things happening, and absolutely realistic. I would say that concept is the multiverse. Right there. You want an example of could we be living in a simulation? Well, yes, we could be. You and I could be a part of some kid's video game.
Yeah, conceivably, I mean, we are, and Yeah, it could be a video game, something similar to. Again, I don't necessarily think it's a computer or a video game. I think it's something a little bit more on the molecular level or biological or something like that. But even when we look at like our ancient texts, our religious texts, they basically talk about being in a simulation, but they don't use that terminology. Like when we look at some of the Eastern traditions of reincarnation, that constant recycle. We come down to earth, learn a lesson, go back to whatever the home world is, do a life review, come back down, etc. We do that same sort of thing when we interact with simulations now. It's not necessarily a video game. You do kind of the same thing when you work on a flight simulator, right? You go into a world, you log in, you're learning how to fly, and you come back out. It's the same type of concept. Even with Christianity, they're talking about, we're down here in this world to prepare for a next world. So we already have those ideas integrated within our ancient texts. They just didn't use the word simulation, but that's essentially what they're talking about. Now, to wrap it back around to time, okay, so let's say this is like some sort of avatar that we're here. Consciousness is being broadcast down to us. The idea that our body, this three-dimensional thing here, is a receiver for that consciousness. Well, that world that is outside that our consciousness is from has different physical properties than here, including time. Taking it back to a video game, when we're playing a video game and we're logged into that and we're playing that character, time within the game, properties within the game work differently than in the real world. Just think of like Super Mario or whatever. You're jumping around, you knocking mushrooms out of bricks, and you can't do that in the real world. Your RPG type of games, they have day and night cycles that work at a very different pace than our day and night cycles here. So we're already, our idea is already there that something within a simulation, the properties are different within that simulation than the outside world. Okay, so then what does that outside world look like? What does time look like from that outside world? Again, we're coming back to the idea that time as we understand it here doesn't really exist. It's very, very different than what it really is.
Have you played, I don't know if you're a gamer. I'm a gamer. Okay. And I
used to be back in the day. My degree is actually in game and simulation programming.
Well, that's because you're an NSA secret agent. So that explained right there. That explained your door. Your mask was just taken off.
There we go.
There you go. Have you ever played? Right now, I'm doing Forza Horizon 5. It's a driving simulation game, and I like this a lot. So well done, and it is immersive. All right, you are and the new version of the game takes place all across Mexico, and it's endless, and I enjoy that. And so, have you ever played No Man's Sky?
I have not. No.
Have you heard of it? All right,
I've heard of it, but I've never played it. No.
Okay, so what No Man's Sky? The idea and the concept behind it is cool. It's been done a million times. Get in a spaceship, go fly to another planet, and check it out. Yeah. But what No Man's Sky does is it creates the planets in real time. So, in other words, the game itself technically is unlimited.
Oh,
so
interesting.
The engine behind it, right, is always, it's infinite. You're not going to discover the same world twice. You're always going to something, right. Now take that concept for a second. That's on one computer, right? This isn't on some massive server farm. It's very.
It's the player's computer. Yeah,
it is very, very smooth software, right? It's very simple. Once they crack that on how to have the engine, right, and just create a new world with different species and different things and different plants and different, and you go to the next planet. Well, wait a minute, that same concept can apply to anything. And once AI is running things, then this concept very quickly, by the way, this idea of creating other worlds, and it's happening because the software is writing it, and it's getting so realistic and fresh and new that maybe, right, that we push this out 5, 10, 20 years. Could we be living in a simulation? Not then. What I'm saying is that concept, if there's a species out there that is ahead of us, could have created this artificial world.
And how many layers are there? Are we a simulation within a simulation? A dream within a dream, right? We could be many, many layers down. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not that really hard of a concept to somebody had just wrote I forget the game. I can't, I don't want to scroll back and look for it, but Minecraft. That's another example of that.
Oh yeah, my kids were big into Minecraft. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and it's so immersive. Now you just take that engine, that idea, and you throw No Man's Sky into this, and a game like Forza and other artificial environment type scenarios that are being done. I don't think it's really that far out of reach. That's why.
No, and you're coupling it with technology. They're coming out these days. I mean, they're saying you're talking 20, 25 years down the road. Okay, we have these big VR helmets right now, right? And I like my VR system. It's kind of cool. You feel like you are really in the simulation, and like I'll do some different boxing games, and you're like ducking and jiving and all that, and that's because you feel like you're about to really get hit. That's my workout. But they're talking, 20, 25 years from now, do away with the VR helmet. You're actually going to have contacts that you put in, and that's going to be your VR system.
Maybe even you know what? I think one step beyond that too. You're right, though. You're right. Contact lenses that would charge. You don't put them out and put them in your little portable charger and flip the lid and then put them back on later. No, they charge with the electricity in your body. Right.
There you go.
Yeah, just keep them on all the time. I think it would go one step further, like what Elon is doing with Neuralink. What if you intercepted the visual receptors, right, in your eye, get in between that, and your brain is now interpolating an electric signal that is being created by the VR system. And that your eyes aren't even seeing it at all, open or closed, right? It wouldn't matter.
Now you're going down the road of transhumanism, and we're really on the brink of that. Absolutely.
We are right there. Does that scare you? Is that something that keeps you awake at night?
Well, it doesn't keep me awake at night, no. But I think there's probably been enough sci-fi movies that have addressed that. It does kind of spook you a little bit as far as where we could take it. Where it would spook me is if it suddenly like became a requirement or something like that. It's like I still want to have the choice as to if I want to go down that road or not. Because think about if somebody was to hack that system, how much control they would be able to have over people. That's a scary thought. So we need to be really careful with it.
They're doing some tests now. I didn't want to report on this quite yet. I don't want to be the one that's yelling fire in a crowded theater. I don't want to be that guy, right? But there's always a but. So I'm reading these reports where they are taking artificially generated, you can say AI, or you can use any of these other words that are used today, and playing video clips of familiar faces. It could be anything. It could be the Pope. It could be a world leader. It could be a musician, right? Doesn't matter. Somebody you're familiar faces doing crazy stuff. I was going to use a bad word, but Ricksecker's on the show. Doing crazy stuff and getting people's emotional responses to them. Because in this era of AI and deep fakes and what you can do with this in real time, that it could be a tool to control the masses. Right. And for whatever reason, it could be for positive, could be for negative. It could be to topple governments. I don't, it could be for a lot of different reasons. But do people react to crazy things coming from familiar faces? And the answer is yes. They are reacting, and they're reacting fast, and they're acting very emotionally. And I think it's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of times it can be used for fun. I like watching. There's a guy, Charlie Hopkinson. This guy in the UK, but he does these great deep fakes. He's an impressionist, so he can really do the voices, and he does these deep fakes of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars, sitting on the couch and they're roasting the movies and acting like they were really there, and that's and it's funny as all get out. And so those things are enjoyable. But when you start doing things like I've seen deep fakes with when she was still alive with Queen Elizabeth, and it's like, oh, that's scary, because now here is a very public figure, world leader, and if you didn't know any better, you'd say this was the real deal.
Right.
So that in that sense, that can be scary, because then you don't know when you're watching somebody on TV, is this really that person, or am I being faked out? Or just scaring the masses here.
Do you remember? I'm sure you've seen it. I'll probably get this technically incorrect, but I'm going to be close. There is a deep fake done. It was about 3 years ago, way before the technology is what it is today, but it was damn good. It was Jennifer Lawrence and her acceptance speech, or maybe it was her press conference after winning an Oscar or a Golden Globe, but it was Steve Buscemi's face on Jennifer Lawrence's body. So you've got Jennifer's voice, right? Doing this beautiful, press conference, right? But it's Steve Buscemi's face doing the talking. And now it was funny. And it was one of those things where you were like, huh? And, you looked at it and you could tell it was a little quirky, right? It wasn't perfect.
Right.
But it was like, if this is where we are right now, and I see the humor in it.
Sure.
But where are we going to be in a couple of months?
Yeah.
Right. Where are we
absolutely
in a couple of years with this? Because this is convincing. It's really well done. That was done in humor. That was funny. The Tom Cruise stuff.
Oh, right? The Tom Cruise stuff was hilarious. Yeah.
It's hilarious. Makes you laugh. Now insert Putin's face. Right.
And then you have an issue.
Yeah, saying something crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you have a lot of people that are being called, conspiracy theorists these days when they say, our world leaders that we're seeing on TV are not really our world leaders. They're actually deep fakes. And I understand why they're saying that, because the technology is there to do that. So, you can't completely discredit them, although, a part of you wants to be like, but that they're being a conspiracy theorist or off the deep edge, but it's totally possible. The technology's there.
We're going to have AI do the work on the research if a deep fake is real or not. It's a complete turn. It's going to be a complete turn. But I think that's where we are today. And if this is indeed the case, and we look at Orwell in 1984 and Big Brother and rewriting history and time travelers and Mandela effect and us from the future and is ET time travelers, and is this going on? Has a history been altered? Well, now these questions I think are right in front of us. And if this is where we are, anybody from the future has got all of this dialed.
All that and more. Yeah.
Right. Right. And again, it's not something that keeps me up at night. It's not. I'm hoping that we will, A, figure out time travel, B, figure out faster than light travel, C, get to this disclosure question, and is ET visiting us, right? And I think that the world has to be able to handle these things, because AI is here. I think time travel is here. And I think ET is here. And these are questions that we all have to address.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. AI has been around for a while. This show right now is not possible without AI. It's just, to what degree are we taking AI? And that's where I think people start to get, scared of the road that is taking us down. But it's here. Yes, ET is here as well. Time travel is here as well. And that's why we're having, some of these different things like the Mandela effect. It's all real.
So with let's end the show with this
Mhm.
basic question, and
All right.
we've got about 5 minutes left.
Sure.
How is time travel possible? What makes time travel real? What's the best example?
Not a DeLorean and a flux capacitor.
What?
Sorry to spoil it. Yeah, I mean, our theoretical physicists would say get next to a black hole and you can, we're in space and time. We're not getting next to a black hole anytime soon. They'll also say, you need a lot of energy. But the thing is that we do see forms of time travel. We were talking about time slips earlier. I think we're experiencing forms of time travel when we're sleeping at night, when we have these dreams and we get a glimpse of the future, and all of a sudden, boom, we see it, play out right in front of us. A week later, that's a form of time travel. So it's already there. So that means that our consciousness is able to move about in and through what we're calling time right now. So I think it's a matter of whether some sort of meditation, tuning into ourselves, our consciousness, and finding that right frequency to get on that right wavelength to be able to access these other moments in time. So when it comes to real time travel, I think it's going to have less and less to do with the mechanical side of it and more to do with ourselves.
If you go out into a point in space, and I think Einstein tried to get us to understand it, but he had a hard time. He did most of his work imagining.
Yeah,
right.
His thought experiments. Yeah.
When he was bending light and lenses and these time and getting that into math without ever have seen an example of it, but he had it in his head, right? He had the idea there, and he turned out to be correct, right? Okay, so that's pretty nutty. But if you go into a place out in space where stacked time theory being the past, present, and future are stacked up on top of each other, right? Okay, I get that. I understand that. But if you are in a point in space where I understand direction is limitless, what is up and what is down? Well, there is no up and down, right? You can have an orientation to your home planet and come up with a north and south, but you take your planet out of the mix, there is no up and down, back and forth, side to side. It's all the same direction. Are you just moving forward by your line of sight? Does time work the same way?
Yeah, I think, again, you kind of putting a physicality to it. I mean, we are it. Yeah, if you take the planet out from under me right now, I'm still in a point in space. There's just not ground under me, right? I'm probably, die from the vacuum of space, but I'm still in space somewhere. So there are still things that are happening or have happened within that point in space. And so that's all. And again, it's all connected to each other. So, everything in that point is still happening, has happened, will happen there. Whether, I don't know, 1,000 years from now, a comet will blow through there. Okay, well, that's an event in that space. The planet may eventually form right there at some point. And at some point, that planet will go away. So, even, our own planet right now, another 5 billion years from now, it's going to be gone. But that doesn't mean that everything that happened in this point in space never happened. It did. And so, so if when you're talking about, where you are within space-time, everything's still there.
Man, that's heavy. That's heavy. That's
yeah. You gotta wrap it around your head a few different times, and then somehow spit it out.
That's like,
but it was a real adventure, writing the book, because these are basically things that have been spinning around my head for a while, and to be able to tie it into, the way I look at the book, there's science in it, but it's not too sciencey. There's metaphysics in it, but it's not too metaphysical. And then, there's like anecdotal stories and things like that. So, so I tried to tackle this subject from a lot of different angles.
That was almost Gurdjieff-ish. It's almost Gurdjieff-ish. Mike Ricksecker, congratulations. The book is out. It was released today. Again, everybody, it is called Travels Through Time Inside the Fourth Dimension, Time Travel and Stacked Time Theory. It is out. The links for Amazon are on our website. They're in the video description below, and we've got it up in the chat. Everybody go and get your very own copy. Mike, be safe and be well. You're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo later on this year. Or next year.
I will be, yes. Next year, I will be at the Conscious Life Expo. Absolutely. And that's February, correct?
Yeah, February. Yeah. I'm the host of that event, man. And so that means that you and I get to take over the lounge.
Sweet. All right? Let's do it.
I'll talk to you. Mike, behave and be well, my friend.
All right, you too, my friend.
Thank you. Mike Ricksecker. Again, the links are below. We've got them up on the website and over on social media. What a great show tonight. And let's see, tomorrow night, what do we got going on tomorrow night? Oh, Dr. Bruce Solheim is with us tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about time and the paranormal, amongst other things. All of that is tomorrow night right here on Fade to Black. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you to Dennis and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2023 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with Dr. Bruce Solheim, go back, Lee Tappy.